What is a graphic novel? The simplest definition is a novel or book illustrated in the form of comic strips. So now you may be thinking something like, so it's a comic book. Well, not exactly. Yes, graphic novels are made up of comic strips, but there is a difference between a graphic novel and a comic book. To help explain this, let's define what a comic book is as well. A comic book is a magazine that illustrates a story through comic strips. The difference between graphic novels and comic books is mostly in the format of the books, how and when they are published, and even sometimes the depth of the plot. A comic book is generally published in a serialized order, meaning that there are short issues or parts of the story that are released over several months or even sometimes a few years. Because of the time that it takes for comics to be released, the plot of the stories often aren't as complex or in-depth as graphic novels. Graphic novels are usually a length of 1 or 2 books, but sometimes there are more, and they have more content because of their size. Their size also allows them to often have more complicated and detailed plots because they are published so close together and there is more working room. So that's what a graphic novel is and the difference between them and comic books. What's next? Well, there are lots of different parts to the art of graphic novels that will help you read more, so let's move on to that. On each page, the image or art is in something called a panel. A panel is basically a picture frame. Each one has the image that tells the story, and in most graphic novels you read them left to right, top to bottom. Unless it's a manga, but that can get confusing, so we'll stick with the traditional non-Japanese reading style. Panels form the next part of the page, tiers. Tiers are the levels and rows of panels on a page. For example, one page could have 2 tiers of panels, but another page may have up to 4 tiers. Panels are often defined by borders. Borders are just the style in which the picture is framed. It can be a simple line border, a fancy border, or even sometimes there isn't a border at all and the image is freestanding. The fancy borders are often used to draw the reader's attention to the most important part of the page. The border can also be used sometimes for showing when a time in the story is changing, such as flashbacks. Some artists will use no border to show that they are switching from present to past and vice versa. Now there's the gutter. The gutter is the empty space between the panels that give the page a break and prevents the art from making everything seem cluttered. It's not always given a lot of attention or credit for its job. However, the gutter can be used with the art to draw attention to certain panels as well. When an image bleeds, this means the art for a panel runs out of the panel and into the gutter, or even off page, making the image bigger and more eye-catching, which leads into graphic weight. Graphic weight is just how much attention the artist wants on a certain image, which is where the whole fancy border and bleeding image stuff comes in. But sometimes the artist will use graphic weight to draw attention to an image without having it leave the panel or giving it a cool border. How? By making an obvious difference in the art of the image, often meaning that the image is more detailed than the others. This can also be done with special effects lettering. Special effects lettering is just when the text in the panel is different from the rest of the text to draw attention. This can be making the text 3D, a different style like from print to cursive, or even the size and coloring of the text. So now that we're into text, let's talk about the different types of ways text is used in a graphic novel. The one most often used is just plain speech balloons. They're just balloons that the text of someone speaking is placed in, so it's easy to read apart from the art and tell who is speaking. These balloons often change shape with the length of the text too. There are also speech bubbles that change with the emotions of the characters sometimes. Sometimes there will also be thought bubbles. These are in the shape of a cloud, so the reader knows what's being said in that space is a thought and not verbalized. Finally, there's captions, which is text for things like description, but it's not verbalized by the characters usually. It's more like narration, or could even just be used so the reader knows something like the name of a place if that isn't mentioned by the characters in the story. Captions are usually in a box or rectangle so you can tell them apart. So that's all about graphic novels and how to read and recognize the different parts of one. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can move on to one of the other 3 videos. The history of graphic novels might be what you would like if you like history. If you want to watch about a debate, the Are Graphic Novels Literature might be a good choice. The third option, examples of graphic novels and genres, may also be something you'd like to hear about. Click one of the links to move on, and if you want to watch all of them, the videos are all listed at the end of each video, so you can do that too. Thanks again for watching!